Well, that move from working to retirement is a tough one because you have to start paying yourself, right? All that time you've been saving, now it's time to turn that into an income plan in retirement. But how do you go about that? It's pretty difficult to do. It's not easy to do on your own, but today we'll give you some tips, talk about how Wise Wealth helps their clients with income planning. Welcome into Retire Right, a Wise Wealth Advisors podcast. I am Ben George. He is Ryan White, certified financial planner. Ryan, how are you today?
I'm doing well, Ben. How about you?
I am doing well. I know income planning is important, right? I know it's kind of one piece of the puzzle, but it's a pretty important one.
We think so, and I would argue that a lot of our clients think so as well. Especially once they're done working and their employer's no longer giving them the paycheck. It's their portfolio.
Yeah, and it's a lot. I guess it's one of the things that keep people from wanting to retire, right, is the fear of not having that paycheck coming in anymore. So we want to talk about how to put together an income plan, some of the things to be thinking about, and some of the factors that go into it. We're going to do that today again with Ryan. If you have any questions, wisewealthadvisors.com, great place to start. The number as well, which we'll have all this in our description, 724-271-7019. All right, when I think about income planning, Ryan, I've heard people say before that if you don't have an income plan, you don't even really have a retirement plan at all. Is that something you'd agree with?
Yeah, I would. I mean, I wouldn't go as far as to say you don't have a retirement plan. I just don't think that it maybe is a great one. It's sad, but I think there's a lot of firms out there that don't have true income plans built. But having the financial plan is one thing, but creating that into a distribution or an income plan after you have the financial plan is another thing. And we just believe that that's the way that needs to be done.
Yeah, I think a lot of people think about, I got to save. I got to build up this money, but then, okay, well, how do you distribute that? And that's what we want to talk about today. And
right.
You think about the people that come in and to Wise Wealth and sit down with you guys. And I know it's a newer firm, so you can even go back a little bit to past stops. But when you first meet with people and they come into the office, how many people do you think come in with a true income plan in place and feel pretty confident about where they stand?
I don't think that I've met truly. Now, granted, Ron has worked with some of our clients here much longer than I have. But I really don't think that one of our clients have come to us with an income plan built out before they started working with us. Some of them have had budgets, which is very important because that gives us a really good starting point. But an actual income plan with how much money is being taken, how much money is being distributed from which type of investment account bucket, I don't think that I've ever seen that.
Yeah, it's pretty challenging, right? You're trying to balance multiple buckets. Is that why you think people are unprepared? Because it is a challenge to try to sort through what you have and to try to make sense of where that money should come from, and then to try to figure out how much you need each month.
An income plan seems pretty straightforward, right? It's just how much money do I need on a monthly basis? Okay, I'm just going to take that out of my account. But if you really want to maximize your decision and be tax efficient and come up with a tax minimization strategy or actually track what you're spending and make sure that you're not distributing too much or too little, you start to find out that you're really balancing out more than just one piece of the puzzle. You're balancing out your goals, how much you're spending. You're starting to get into how your portfolios are built, like how much risk you need to take. And then from there, once you have all those answered, then you haven't even considered yet the tax impact yet. So where do you distribute from and when? So it starts to get pretty complex pretty quickly.
Yeah, it sounds like it. And again, this is why you want to work with a professional. So let's talk about kind of the steps somebody can take if they're working with you. What are you doing to help put together an effective retirement income plan? What steps would you tell somebody, okay, here's what we need to be doing to put this in place?
Yeah, I mean, and so, Ron would say the same thing. Everything that we do starts with having a plan. If we don't know, and when we're building out a financial plan for a client, really the first thing that we're focusing on is what are your goals? What are you trying to achieve? And you really drill that down into how much do you plan to spend in retirement. Now there's of course different there's different categories for spending. There's your kind of everyday expenses, there's your healthcare expenses, there's travel. Are you going to make, gifts to charity, gifts to family, etc.? But that's the first step. We need to solve for what you plan to spend. Once we have that buttoned up, then we can start looking at, okay, well, what kind of guaranteed income sources do you have? What's your Social Security look like? There's over 9,000 different combinations for married couples in terms of, the age and the month that they could take it. So then we have to start getting into how do we maximize those benefits based on their situation? Are they getting a pension? All those different guaranteed income streams, obviously, when they start, they help achieve some of those spending goals, which puts less pressure on your portfolio. So we need to kind of figure out what that gap is that needs to be met from the portfolio. And then, of course, once we're at the portfolio stage, then we, again, like I mentioned earlier, we really have to drill down on, hey, how conservative of an investor are you? Because that's going to determine how much income we think that we can consistently or reliably generate from the portfolio. And then once we know all of that, we can really start to get into, are there any opportunities for us to save on taxes long term? We very consistently look at Roth conversions as being one of those opportunities. That's basically paying taxes while you're in a low income tax bracket and avoiding paying taxes when you're in a high income tax bracket, usually when you're in your later years of retirement, when you have to start taking those mandatory distributions out of your accounts. I know that was a lot, but that's the general approach that we're taking there.
No, it's good to know, because I think a lot of people, to your point earlier, I'd see it take money out, but there's a lot that goes into it. And even just pointing out, I've never heard that about Social Security claiming strategies, right? There's what'd you say, 9,000?
Yeah, there's over 9,000. It's like 9,400, I think, is the number, somewhere right in there.
Yeah, it's crazy. And just trying to wrap your head around that, and okay, how do I sort through that and figure it out? I mean, obviously you can probably eliminate a number of those depending on what your situation you're in, but just
Sure.
knowing exactly which path to take is very difficult. And I mean, I'm sure there's other things too. Like, I mean, I think about inflation right now and thinking about trying to plan for that, because if you do live a long retirement and you're trying to think about what kind of income you need, well, that number today is probably going to look different in 15 or 20 years. And hopefully you enjoy a retirement that's 20 or 30 years long.
100%. Yeah. I mean, we, that's another piece that's really important. So, what we're doing is in our income plans, there's certain costs that typically are inflating at a higher rate than, let's say, like your everyday living expenses, for example, over the long run. So just because inflation recently has been very high, I guess, compared to maybe what it was 5, 6, 7 years ago, that doesn't mean that we've overnight just changed our assumptions in our process to be, inflation at, 6% or what have you in all categories, because that would start to, over the long run, paint probably an unrealistic picture. But what we do have in place is reasonable assumptions on like everyday living expenses or vacation budgets, what have you. But healthcare typically inflates at a higher rate than the everyday living expenses. So we can actually take those types of spending categories, separate them from other spending categories, and then inflate them at a higher rate and run that indefinitely throughout the plan. And we feel that creates a more accurate picture, not just from, are you on track to meet your spending goals, but again, backing up into that income side of things as well.
Well, it gets me thinking a little bit too, because when you put together an income plan, you probably feel pretty confident about that lasting for a while. But how often are you reviewing this? Because as you point out, healthcare changes quite a bit, and who knows, it doesn't seem to be slowing down. At least the cost increases, inflation changes year to year. So how often are you actually looking at your income plan once you're in retirement and making changes? Is it every year, every few months, every few years? What does it look like?
Yeah, we used to do this annually. Okay. And then what we did was we realized that Ron and I, we were just talking and we were wondering if there was a better or a more efficient way for us to review everything together a little bit more frequently. So we used to do a comprehensive financial plan review, which again, the best way to look at that is just it's more focusing on, are you on track to meet your goals long term? Not so much the income side of things. And then what we would do is in the later part of the year, we would have a tax and investment review meeting, which focused much more on the income side of things. So we would just do kind of one and one. But now what we're doing is we actually started using a new financial planning software that's going to allow us to perfectly blend both the long-term planning, the retirement planning piece, and the income planning piece into one meeting. And now we'll be able to review both twice a year. That's how, to our clients, that's how important these conversations have been. And so we just think that it's going to be a really good use of those two meetings, which is how often we're having those big progress meetings, reviewing the plan with them. We just think that that's going to be a better fit to be able to review both topics throughout the year twice.
Okay. Yeah. Good to know. Well, think about your clients then for a second as we kind of close out this conversation on income planning. I'm just curious if you could think to anyone, and I know it helps people to kind of hear like a real life example of kind of how this plays out. But is there anyone that you could think of that came in, as you mentioned, most people don't have an income plan, nearly everybody, as they come in to meet with you, but where you took a situation where they came in without a whole lot there and you helped craft that for them to the point where they felt pretty good about going into retirement and being able to create that income on their own?
Yeah, definitely. One client comes to mind, he's just a really good saver. And we built a plan for him. He really didn't have a budget in place. By building the income plan, we were able to back into the exact amount that he needs on a monthly basis to meet his spending needs. And we were actually able to, by being as detailed as we were actually able to, because he retired before he was on Medicare. So he's out on the private exchange, paying for health insurance, which, that can go up to $1,000 a month, for premiums, if your income's high enough. And so we were able to, by being very detailed on that income side, keep his income low enough to meet his spending needs, but not too high so that he could get some subsidies and lower those health insurance premiums. So there are definitely some cost savings there. I think another example was we had a client that inherited some money, and it was in an IRA. Well, a large part of it was in an IRA. And that now has it's non-spouse, so it has the 10-year window to it. And so she has to withdraw this money by the end of 10 years. That money needs to be completely out of the account. So that can be obviously it's money that's inherited, but that can be a pretty big tax bill if you don't handle it correctly. So we use our tax planning software, and we actually found out that the best strategy to do was to increase her 401k contributions to the maximum amount. That way she lowers her take-home pay, and then we could basically start to tax efficiently distribute that inherited IRA, which will also be taxed as income, to her over that 10-year window. And it actually ended up being almost like her income situation didn't really change much at all, and she'll be on track to distribute the IRA by the 10-year period. So we broke it up over even distributions. So if we didn't run those numbers, we would have never come up with that strategy. But those are just two examples that comes top of mind.
Well, they're great examples because it kind of points out why you work with someone like this, a financial professional that can point you in the right direction, give you the savings, help make sure you're as efficient as possible. You can keep that money that you worked so hard to save and get the most out of those dollars throughout your retirement. Again, if you have questions, wisewealthadvisors.com is the best place to start. And I know, Ryan, on your website, you'll quickly see the green button there for the free retirement assessment. Is this income piece of that retirement assessment, is that part of it at all? Do you get into that early?
Definitely. Yeah. We let you know. What we do is we put together a long-term snapshot of your income picture. And what we'll do is we'll address areas that if you were working with us on an ongoing basis, that we would help you plan for. Essentially what it comes down to is we'll look at what your income's going to look like long term, and we'll tell you some of the areas where you're going to maybe climb up into higher tax brackets during retirement, and then we'll talk to you about the strategies that we would actually use to address that. So that's absolutely a part of that free retirement assessment that we address, and we even share. We want to replicate what it's like to work with us as if you were an actual client already. So we take you through that full process. We build out the financial plan. And then at the end of the retirement assessment, we actually share that plan with you.
Awesome. Well, if you want to take advantage of that, again, all you have to do is go to wisewealthadvisors.com. The link is in the description as well. You can find it there and begin that process. Big green button. You won't miss it once you log onto the website, but check it out. A lot of other good information there on the site as well. So while you're there, spend some time looking around. If you have questions, again, reach out. We'd love to hear from you, and we appreciate you watching this video. Hopefully this gives you a little insight into the income planning process, all the different factors that go into putting an income plan together, and why you need that proper guidance to make sure you're getting it right and have that confidence to step away from the paycheck in retirement. Ryan, as always, appreciate it. Looking forward to our next video coming up soon.
Likewise, Ben. Thank you.
Thanks for watching. Please subscribe wherever you are listening or watching. And if you are listening, come join us on YouTube as well. We'd appreciate that. For Ryan Wyatt over at Wise Wealth, I am Ben George. Have a good week.
Schedule your complimentary review with Ryan and his team today. Just visit them online at wyzewa.com or call 724-271-7019 to get started.
This episode's content is for informational purposes only. Opinions expressed herein are solely those of Wise Wealth Advisors, unless otherwise specifically cited. Material presented is believed to be from reliable sources, and no representations are made by our firm as to other parties' informational accuracy or completeness. All information or ideas provided should be discussed in detail with an advisor, accountant, or legal counsel prior to implementation.